Okay, are we live? Sorry, it was being weird. Are we live? Are we good? I believe we are live. Okay, we are live. Welcome everyone to the Vince Dao Show. We will be with you shortly. Let me play the intro. But yeah, one day away from the 4th of July. Let's go into the holiday with a bang, shall we? Literally, firework. Psh. All right, let's get started. And we are live tonight from the great state of Florida. It is July 3rd, the year of our Lord 2023. Welcome everyone to the Vince Dao Show. I am your galaxy-brained host, Vince Dao. And before we begin, everyone, as usual, be sure to leave a like on the stream, subscribe to the channel if you are new. We normally do this show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern time, although I'm sure, as you can imagine, tomorrow is the 4th of July, so we will not be live tomorrow. Have a great day with your families and all of that. But we are here tonight, and we plan to be back for you on Wednesday. So for the time being, we are here, and it's going to be a great show for you tonight. We got lots to talk about. First and foremost, we're going to give coverage of these riots that are happening in France. Some of you guys may have seen them. Some of you may have no idea what they're talking about. I'm going to break it down. I'm going to show you why they're happening, going to react to the police shooting that people are up in arms about, give you all my thoughts about the downfall of France. Also, we're going to be reacting to an LA Times article by an Asian columnist who is pretty flagrantly defending affirmative action. Okay, so, you know, I know they very often call me a race traitor for being conservative, but there's a little something to be said there. Also, the Biden administration has a plan to block out the sun in order to stop climate change. Okay, we're going to tell you about that. And to close out the show, I got a great July 4th story that I want to tell everyone. So that's going to be the show tonight. But if you guys do want to super chat to support the show, feel free to do so. I know we got one here right now. Daniel McQuaid for 279 Canadian says, "What up, Vince? I hope you're good. Hope you're good. What up, Daniel?" I'm gonna be honest, if I sound congested right now, it's because I am. And I feel like I don't even want to explain the reason why I'm congested, because it's embarrassingly stupid. Should I explain it? Okay, I was at dinner last night, had cologne on, right? And because I was being very lazy, I went to bed without washing the cologne off. And I woke up like totally having an allergic reaction because I was basically just inhaling the cologne and it was like all over my sheets. But yeah, that's the reason why we're so congested, but I feel all right. So oops, my bad. I do feel all right. So let's get into the show tonight. Without further ado, it is the hour of Dao. Let's get into our stories for tonight. Again, if you guys do want to super chat to support the show, it is all greatly appreciated. I will read them periodically between each segment. And yeah, let's have a great show tonight before the 4th of July. So we start, of course, with the news that there are massive riots still currently going on, but especially were big over this weekend in the nation of France. Okay, so I did do a video today already kind of giving you the context behind what's going on here, but I'm basically going to repeat most of the information because I feel like it's probably not being covered a lot in America, but it is worth talking about. I mean, there's an entire European nation basically on fire right now. Absolutely insane. I'm seeing some of these videos. I'm hearing some of these reports. It is actually, in many ways, maybe even worse than the summer of 2020. Definitely on those same levels. Now, what I will say, and what I did not mention in the video, is I do hope, at the very least, the silver lining of all of this is that it sparks an awakening in France and really the greater rest of Europe about globalism, about the migration policies that many right-wingers, both in the States and in Europe, have been criticizing, right, obviously, and of course, really an awakening of who they're voting for, right? They voted for Emmanuel Macron over Marine Le Pen twice. You know what I mean? They did that twice. Knowing that Macron was the liberal, knowing that Marine Le Pen was the one who wanted to bring law and order, clean up migration policies, clean up the country, knowing they did this, and in many ways you could argue at the moment the French are facing the consequences of those actions. Now, unlike some, I do not take like, I do not laugh at that. I do not mock that, because I do view France as another Western country, an ally of the United States. I don't really like to see any Western country burn to the ground, but there is something to be said about that. There is something to be said about, hopefully it does spark something. Although, you look at what happened in our country in 2020, did it really? I don't know. I don't think it's a good thing at all, but hopefully at least that's the very silver lining of it. But what is actually going on in France that caused this entire situation, that's causing these crazy 2020 style riots around their country right now? Well, I talked about this in the video today again, but I'm going to reiterate. So basically what happened was there was a police shooting, as you could imagine, of a 17-year-old North African kid. And so what's essentially happening is many of the migrants that you may know, the migrant communities that the European Union has been letting in through refugee resettlement, asylum, mass migration over the past few years, they are up in arms because, the 17-year-old North African kid got killed. Now, I will say on this incident, and I know this take might be controversial, but when I sit down there and watch the video that all these French people, not French, I should say, but you know what I mean, that all the people in France are totally up in arms about, well, let me explain it for you, and then I'll give you my thoughts. Okay, so essentially what happened is you have the 17-year-old kid. He was illegally driving around in a rental car, right? Now, the cops, for whatever reason, maybe they thought he was too young. I think in France, you have to be 18 to drive. For whatever reason, they thought the kid is too young, and whatever reason, maybe he's speeding, whatever. They're pulling him over, right? Trying to do a routine traffic stop here. Now, the kid initially tries to flee from the French police, okay? So he runs a red light, so that he already endangering public safety, all this stuff, tries to flee from the police, and eventually they manage to get him stopped. And at the point where the video cuts on conveniently, as in most cases, right, the video only cuts on at a certain point and it's cut out. But at the point of this, they already have, he's pulled over. The cops are standing, outside the passenger window saying, listen, like, stop, you know what I mean? It's in that situation. It's escalating for sure. And this is where the video cuts on, is there's two cops, guns pointed at this kid in the traffic stop. Okay. So what happens next is the kid tries to, after already acting erratically, right? The kid tries to drive off. I can't play it on YouTube. I wish I could, but guidelines. Okay. The kid tries to drive off, and one of the cops puts one bullet point blank range in him, and the kid, tragically, of course, since he's 17, he could have redeemed his life. It's an unfortunate situation. I don't celebrate it, but point blank range, kid ends up dying. Okay. So obviously the standard left-wing reaction and what all these people are saying, and the reason they're saying it's justified to burn down the country of France over this is, well, he was fleeing. Why'd you shoot at him? Okay. My thing is this, and I know some people disagreed. I saw in the comments today, some people disagreed, but I do still believe this. Yeah, if he was fleeing on foot, it would be one thing. Yeah, you don't shoot a guy in the back. There's no need to do it. But he's fleeing in a car. Okay. So, which I think adds a lot of nuance to the situation. The cops said they were actually in fear for their own lives already because the guy was acting erratically. And, I brought this up in the video. Yes, the chances are he's going to try to run away, but there's also the chance he can turn that car around and try to run into the cops, back up into the cops, whatever it is. And I know people said, Vince, that's not a likely scenario. Well, maybe it's not the most likely, but still, here's the thing, right? At the moment that happens, if that does hypothetically happen, the kid turns the car around, it's not going to be very easy if the kid's coming at you head on or reversing into you, whatever, to just, neutralize the threat then, okay? And I know people, why don't you just shoot the tires or something? And there's just so much wrong with that argument, right? Because if you shoot the tires, first of all, if it's coming at you, I don't know how you're even going to hit the tires, but even as it's fleeing, okay, so you're saying make the car skid around everywhere and potentially hit innocent pedestrians and civilians and kill them too? Because that's another aspect of this story that I can't confirm this. I've not confirmed this, but a lot of people were commenting on my video today mentioning this, which is that the cops claimed that also the kid was driving towards a crowd of people, right? So that's the thing about this, okay? Again, I don't really know what French law says. I don't really even know what American law says on this front. I am just saying from a logical perspective, I look at that video and say, yeah, it's a little bit tricky, but at the most it's nuanced to me. And I actually understand why the cops did what they did in that situation, right? And my big thing is this. So the alternative would have been to have a high-speed pursuit. And allegedly, according to what some people are saying, a high-speed pursuit into a crowd of people. Okay? So my big thing is, why... Like I said, I don't know the law. I don't know what, in France, but I'm just saying, seeing the video, everyone's so outraged over what they saw. I'm not, because I see it as, well, why should you, right, as the criminal, as the suspect, have the right to be allowed to basically endanger a gigantic crowd of people, right? Because that's what happens in high-speed pursuits. A lot of innocent people can die. Sometimes they do die. It's very sad. Why am I going to be upset that, it is tragic, obviously, that a young kid who clearly had problems, got killed. I'm not celebrating that at all. But the alternative between that and already doing what he did, what right does he have to, endanger public safety? You see what I'm saying on that front, right? Him driving off, not only potentially to the cops, may have put them in serious danger. Like I said, he's already acting erratically. He's already acting crazy. He already had a lot of issues. So, again, who's to say he doesn't actually use the vehicle to attack the cops themselves? Vehicles can absolutely be deadly weapons, but not just about the cops. The crowd he's driving towards, you're going to do a whole high-speed chase. And keep in mind, this is not America where we have these wide-open highways. This is a high-speed chase through the streets of a French city, right? So you ever seen European cities? You know how dense they are? It basically by trying to do this in Times Square, except that's everywhere else, right? Because it's very crowded, it's dense, they're not really drivable cities, which is to say that if you're doing a high-speed chase here through this whole urban area, you're putting a lot of lives out there in danger to continue doing that, as well as the cops and all that. So, like I said, you can disagree with me on that. If you do, that's fair. I understand why the sight of a cop shooting at a fleeing suspect is scary to people. It evokes an emotional reaction. But logically speaking, I look at that video and at most, it's a moral gray. But to me, if you want my true thoughts on it, I think that's the conclusion, the reasonable conclusion some people should reach. But if you want my true thoughts on it, I really look at that and say, well, I hate traffic stops just as much as everyone else, but truth be told, if cops or really anyone already has their guns drawn on you like this, when you F around, you kind of find out. Do we agree on that, right? If they have their gun, first of all, I mean, maybe you should never do it regardless, but maybe it's one thing if they're like, hey, can license and registration, they're calm, they're just relaxed, and then you drive off. They already are saying, this is serious, you need to stop. In fact, one of the cops already made a threat. He said, if you don't stop, there's going to be a bullet in your head. That's what the BBC reported. So the cops already said, we're warning you, we are going to shoot you. And then the person has no respect, totally disregards those warnings, drives off. And then I'm supposed to be super duper on the side of the suspect here for fleeing from the police. See, I like I said, I want to know your guys' thoughts. I'll actually read chat to get your thoughts, but I actually understand this. I don't frankly think that the cop honestly should face charges. Like I said, I don't know standard police protocol. I don't know French law. I just look at it as a person who, has some minimal understanding of self-defense and firearms and all that, and says, well, this person has a vehicle that is a deadly weapon. If they're taking off, who knows what can happen? And whatever the law is, I think the law should be a matter of, if you're about to force a high-speed pursuit, you're going to endanger public safety. A lot of civilians die in high-speed pursuits, right? And I would rather the suspect get neutralized on the spot than a civilian, right? He'd be caught in the crossfire of that. Obviously, the ideal is to just peacefully arrest the kid, and that's it. That is what it is. But given the alternatives between the two possibilities, I genuinely don't understand why people are making such a big deal out of this. Well, to tell you the truth, the reason people are making such a big deal out of this, much like in 2020, as you saw, has to do with the kid's race, right? It has to do with the fact that the kid is a North African migrant. I'm sure if it were a French kid, nobody would really notice. I'm sure if there were no video of it that could be taken out of context because you don't see everything that happened before the video, I'm sure the situation would be much different. But that's the situation that we're in now. Okay. So then again, whatever you think of that, maybe you can disagree with my take. That's fine. My next question is, if this is what happened, how does this justify what you're seeing? How does this justify basically burning down the whole country of France? We mentioned this in the video, but just to give you an idea of what's going on, this is from a BBC article. Okay, I'll read it from you on the reporting of what's happening here. In one act of violence, the home of a suburban Paris mayor, okay, the home of a mayor was attacked. Sounds familiar, by the way. Paris, Portland. Remember that other city where they were attacking the mayor in Yeah. But anyways, and rioters fired rockets. Okay, they fired rockets at his fleeing wife and children, breaking her leg and injuring one of the children. So that, you know, that's what that's what the peaceful protesters are doing, right? This is all deja vu. It sounds very familiar here, right? So then that's my question. In what way, whatever you think of it, like I said, if you want to say it's gray, it's fine. If you kind of lean against the cop, like I said, I actually understand. But if you lean against the cop, fine. It's a complicated situation. Can we agree on that? Can we mutually establish that? How does that justify burning down a country, right? Well, as I mentioned, it's not really about that. This is basically about fueling the flames of a race war. Number one, that's what they're trying to do. And really what it's about is trying to punish Western civilization for, I guess, its past sins. I don't know. You know, I saw a post earlier today that was basically saying France deserves this for colonizing Algeria. Someone unironically posted that. So France deserves to be burned to the ground because they colonized North Africa in the 1800s. By the way, people don't mention this, but the reason they colonized North Africa was actually because the North African Barbary pirates were enslaving over 1 million European people, right? They were pirates. They were causing all these problems. That's why the French stepped in. Regardless, doesn't matter. How dare they colonize Algeria? So apparently for the grave sin of doing what empires have always done for history, you know, innocent women and children deserve to have rockets fired at them. That's according to the logic. It's just nonsense. It's absolutely ridiculous. I pray for France. You know, they are in many ways a brother, sister, whatever civilization of the US. You just don't like to see it because, you know, even if you want to say, I don't care about the French, I know Americans have this whole thing where we like to make fun of the French for surrendering in World War II and all that. But, you know, jokes aside, they are another Western power. But also, here's why it matters to you and I, is that this movement, you can imagine, is going to spread. Right, that's what always happens. You know, BLM, just like BLM spread to Europe, you have to imagine first, eventually this thing's going to reach the UK, then it's going to reach Canada, then it's going to reach us, right? Inspiration happens. The world is interconnected. We understand that. So we pray for France. We pray not only that, you know, people stop burning down France, but we also pray that to some degree, the silver lining of this, right, is that there is an awakening in France. People realize, wow, maybe we shouldn't have, you know, enabled all this globalism and you know, voted for Macron. Maybe that Le Pen girl was right. So hopefully that's what happens as a result. But yeah, absolutely crazy situation. If you're watching us from France tonight, you know, God bless you. We pray for you. You know, it's insane. It's like the French Revolution all over again. But this time, it's the 2023 sequel, right? The Hollywood sequel, I guess you could say. But all right, as we move on here, though, before we move on, let me get caught up here on the super chats. I will read them now. So, by the way, guys, if you do want to super chat the show, feel free to do so. It is greatly appreciated. But let's get all caught up here. So, Daniel McQuaid for $2.79. Daniel McQuaid, I don't know if I can read that. I don't. What did you mean by this, Daniel McQuaid? What did you mean by this? But thank you for the $2.79. It is indeed a movie that was made at some point. Thank you for the $2.79. Louisianimal for $2 says Eric Zemmour is the candidate we like, not Le Pen. Well, I agree, but you know, Zemmour was never the electable one. Le Pen was the electable one. So that's my point there. Yeah, I mean, I hope that in the power vacuum of this, Zemmour does become more popular. Obviously, Le Pen is a more moderate form of him. But also keep in mind, though, you know, Le Pen in many ways moderated her stances for the second time around because she understood, well, this is how I have to win the election. Understand, it's really practicality that divides the two. Because if you go back and look at Le Pen's first election cycle, she was basically Zemmour on all the issues, from my memory. It's been a long time, but from my memory. So I have no doubts that Le Pen would have been a great president. Zemmour probably would be a little bit better, but also, what was he at, like 5% or whatever, you know? So that's really my take on it. Obviously, we love Zemmour as well. We love both of them. Deanna McQuaid for $2.79 says the shooting was justified. I agree. Michael says, honestly, it doesn't take a genius to understand what happens when you drive your car when guns are pointed at you. See, this is exactly what I'm saying, right? That's what I'm saying too. But people, I don't know, people will say what people say. I don't know what to tell you, right? Thank you for the $2.79. Christopher for $10, thank you very much, says, honestly, I'm doubtful about voting in France. Liberals literally burnt our country down in 2020, but people followed the narrative like sheep. Hot take, restore the French monarchy. Well, thank you for the $10. I mean, I don't know if that's going to be a popular take with a lot of people, but for the record, no, I agree with you there. Okay, I do agree with you there. The French Revolution was not just one of the worst things to ever happen to France. It was one of the worst things to happen, frankly, to the entire world. You know, it was the origin of... Really, it was Marxism before Marxism, right? It was the origin of progressivism, of leftism, and all that stuff. And, you know, fundamentally what they were revolting against was... Yeah, the monarchy had its problems, don't get me wrong, but so did the Russian monarchy, right? You know, but what it really was a revolt against tradition, and it was a disaster. It was a disaster for the world. Truly it was. So thank you, France, for that. No, just kidding. But it is true. Thank you for the $10. Mr. Rat for 50 sex. Is that how you say your currency? I know it's like Sweden, right? You guys are, but yeah, thank you for the 50 Swedish currencies. Says, what's up, Vince? I'm finally free to watch your streams live again at 2 a.m. Well, shout out to you, Mr. Rat, our resident Swede. Again, don't mistake me, right? That you are Swedish. I forget, is it Sweden or Denmark? I forget. It's Sweden, right? That's your guys' currency. Well, shout out to our European viewers, Mr. Rat. Stay safe. Don't let any French terrorists into your neighborhood. Okay, they might be trying to run for run up all across Europe. So watch yourself. Okay, watch yourself, Mr. Rat. But be safe. Yeah. Thank you for the 50 Swedes or whatever it is. Burgundy Blue for $10 says, Algeria is a major source of Muslim migrants for France. It was not only a colony, but a core part of France with government reps. France fought a long war to keep it and maintain law and order. They never should have left. Thank you for the $10. It is true. It is true. I really don't think that entire continent is better off without European colonization. That might be a hot take, but really, has either side of the world gotten better since then? I don't know. I don't know. That's up for debate. But thank you for the $10. Then again, though, see, that assumes that Europe remained the power that it used to be. I am glad that, you know, the Europe's former colonies don't have to deal with the political and social ideas that plague Europe today. So maybe there's just two things to be said there. But it is true. It is true. Mr. Rat for 50 Swedes. Whatever. I'm just gonna call them Swedes because I don't want to call them sex, which is literally how you would say it. 50 sex, you know, that's, I don't know, but Paris is like San Francisco. Everyone wants to go there, but no one wants to live there. Thank you for the 50. Well, I will say on that front, to be fair, I don't know how many people still do want to go to San Francisco these days. I know I grew up in SoCal, right? I grew up in LA, and we used to go to San Francisco actually like almost every year, you know, take a Bay Area trip. We call it the Weekender up down there, but we don't go there anymore. It's dangerous, and I don't know if I'd ever go to San Francisco ever again. I would say more so Paris maybe is like New York, right? New York, maybe that's what I'd say. But yeah, thank you for the 50, Mr. Rat. Louisianimal for $2 says, France was best when it was leading crusades on its own. So true, Louisianimal. Thank you for the 2. Louis Bourbon, current heir, is a trad Catholic. Well, they need to restore him. Bring back the monarch. Let's go. All right, liberal democracy has failed. Revolutionary France has failed. Republic of France. Let's just restore the monarchy. It's true. Your country would be better. I don't know. That's obviously their decision. But all right. Thank you for these super chats, guys. I will read more as they come in throughout our segments here. And again, if you guys do want to super chat to support the show, it is greatly appreciated. But let us move on here in our stories. So, last Thursday, or was it Friday? Yeah, last Thursday, I believe. You may remember the Supreme Court overturned affirmative action. It was a huge win, for equality and fairness, and the basic idea that you should have to be held to the same standards as everyone else. I know that's equal standards are such a crazy idea, but kicking and screaming a lot of Asian liberals out there are not happy with affirmative action being overturned. Now, that, of course, sounds contradictory, which precisely is that. It is contradictory. But I found this article here from the LA Times today, and we will read it here. That says, and this is written by an Asian guy, an Asian liberal. Okay, I saw this on Twitter. It says, a question for Asian Americans celebrating affirmative action's end. What have we won? Well, I can answer, before we even get into this article, I can obviously answer that question. We have won opportunity. We have won fairness. As we brought up on Thursday's show, what they were doing at Harvard was, and we showed the statistics, right? An Asian student in the 100th academic percentile, meaning the top of the 1%, right? Even higher than 1%, you know, that elite of academic student had a lesser chance of getting into Harvard than a black student with a 40 percentile academic index, okay? So that means the top 60%, right? If you're in the 60 percentile of, you know how percentiles work. I know I'm being confusing, but hopefully you guys understand how that works, right? Versus the Asian kid literally with a 1600 SAT. If you were a black student with about a 1000 SAT, which is around what the 40th percentile is, you had a higher chance of getting into Harvard than an Asian student with a 1600, okay? So what we have won as Asians, Mr. Asian Liberal, is, I don't know, the system's actually fair to us, right? At least in some regards, we're no longer going to have to worry about having to face higher and more unfair standards than other races simply for being Asian. So that's what we've won, Mr. Genius, Mr. Asian Liberal. But here we go. This is the article here from Frank Chiong. Let's hear out his arguments. So, a few moments after the Supreme Court struck down affirmative action, an email from the 80/20 Initiative, which is a Chinese political action group, so it landed in my inbox with the subject head, victory. All right. I racked my brain, but I couldn't think of anything about Thursday's decision that was a victory for Asian Americans. What have we won? Again, I just explained to you what we've won, right? We've won the fact that, again, I don't know, again, the system is fair to us, right? How about that? We've won that we're no longer discriminated against. And by the way, white people won that as well. But, you know, whatever, we read on here. In their email, the 80/20 Initiative's answer was equal opportunity for Asian Americans in education. Yes. Yes, that's right. Yes, that's a yes. Yes. Thank you, 80/20 Initiative. But Frank Chong argues that is false. The court's ruling makes the current method of achieving a diverse student body illegal, but it doesn't replace it with anything. College and university systems must create their own. Okay. So, first of all, why is it necessary to achieve a diverse student body? Why is that necessary? And again, I once again ask, shouldn't the student body be based on their ability, their merit, right? So that's what I would say. It doesn't matter. It's not of relevance whether or not a student body is diverse. However, what I will say is that the diversity quotas, Frank Chong, to give you the answer there, the diversity quotas that were being used to, you know, supposedly achieve diversity were discriminating against Asians, because Asians, if you look at the racial breakdown, right, on average, we do the best in school, highest test scores, all that stuff. So part of the reason affirmative action was discriminating against us is not because there's some grand conspiracy or something to stop Asian progress or whatever was going on. It was more so because we were overrepresented in the, you know, academic statistics. So if you had color blindness in admissions, you would see a college with a bunch of Asians based on academic performance, a bunch of white kids based on both academic performance and population, and lesser proportions, again, if they're qualified, they'll get in, but lesser proportions relatively of Black and Hispanic students. So you can mention, oh, diversity, but the diversity practices hurt Asian kids. They do. Because on average, right, we disproportionately score at the top of the academic stuff. But if they say as a college, we don't want that many Asians, which is what Harvard does, they say we don't want that many Asians, then you understand that, right? It's tougher for us. It's more competitive for us than it is for other races, okay? So even if you want to make the argument of diversity quotas hurt Asians, and they hurt whites too, okay? But they hurt Asians, since this is what we're having the debate for. But anyways, we continue on here. But it goes on to say, and this is such a ridiculous argument, there is no guarantee that Harvard or any other elite university will admit more Asian students. My guess is that a transitional patchwork of different diversity strategies will actually make the college application process more confusing and less transparent, and all methods of producing a diverse body are more vulnerable to legal challenges now that this case has succeeded against Harvard has succeeded in the nation's highest court. So, you know, if they're going to be more confusing, first of all, that means they're going to be less effective, which is good, actually. Again, if we're arguing only as Asians, it is good for us that diversity strategies fail, because diversity strategies discriminate against us. Genius. That's first and foremost. You know, secondly here, though, you say there's no guarantee that Harvard will admit more Asian students. I suppose in a bubble, maybe that's true, right? We don't know for sure if anything's going to change. But what I will say is that with the old system, there's a guarantee that Asian students were going to get discriminated against, which we showed the statistics absolutely was happening. And so now, at the very least, that we've removed a very guarantee that Asians are going to be discriminated against. That's a net positive, guys. That's a neck up from what we had before. So you can stand there and say, there's no guarantee things will get better, and maybe that's true, but they can't get worse. Okay, there's no way in which they get worse. So either nothing changes, which is whatever, or things get slightly better, or things get a lot better. Regardless, it's an improvement of the situation. But we continue on here, okay? And all methods of blah, blah, blah. We just read that. It's still too early to know how college admissions by race will change. Again, that's true. That's true, my guy. But, okay, you're defending the system of old. The system of old was discriminating against Asians. So, you know, you can make this argument, oh, we don't know if it's really going to change. Fair enough. But if it stays the same, then it can't get any worse, can it? So, like, what are you even talking about? But anyways, colleges will still attempt to produce racially diverse student bodies. I suppose, yeah, that is true. But it's going to be harder for them to do so. Which, again, if we're just talking about Asians as like race conscious, how we're going to talk about this, that's a good thing. That helps us. That helps us. If they're not trying to pursue diversity and they're only going based on merit, or they pursue diversity less, that helps Asians for reasons we just explained. But it's like trying to take a test blindfold, but failing is illegal. Again, diversity does not help Asians, quote unquote, so whatever. One predictor is what happened after California's affirmative action ban in 1996. Okay, so this is a cell phone right here. After California, and this is true, affirmative action, believe it or not, is illegal in California because in the 90s they had a referendum on it, okay? So check, this is so silly. This is what happened, right? White and Asian student enrollment throughout the University of California system, read this carefully, guys. White and Asian enrollment rose slightly, while Black and Latino enrollment at UCLA and Berkeley fell by 40% the first year the ban was implemented. Huh. So what you're saying is that it helped white and Asian students? Okay, because this sentence right here debunks your entire article. Because what was what's the title of your article? What have we won? Guys, as Asians, what have we won? But you say here, when California got rid of affirmative action, Asian enrollment increased. So what do you mean, what have we won? We pretty clearly, obviously have won. That's the dumbest cell phone I've ever heard. What do you mean? We haven't won. You said here that UC enrollment for Asians goes up. So that means we won. Dingus, hey McFly, hey. You know, I don't know, maybe you are the affirmative action. You're the one Asian who somehow benefited from affirmative action. I don't know, because I don't even know what you're trying to argue there. You're trying to argue in favor of us. Oh, there you go. It helped Asians. There. Whole article debunked by yourself, by your own logic, okay? And by the way, I grew up in California. I can confirm that it's true. UCLA, our nickname that we always had for it growing up, this is what we nicknamed UCLA, is University of Caucasians Lost Among Asians. That's what we use, UCLA. Caucasians Lost Among Asians, because that is what UCLA is. It's literally full of Asians, right? The reason it's full of Asians is because affirmative action's not allowed in California. So what happens? The top university, because of average academic performance that's reflected, it's a bunch of Asian kids at the school, right? So, you know, that's how it goes. You know, I don't care one way or the other. I'm not being tribalistic about this. I'm just saying, as a matter of reality, if you take everyone on the basis of academic performance, that's what you get. You get University of Caucasians lost among Asians, right? That's what happens. But anyways, especially in California. But even those gains in Asian student enrollment can't be attributed entirely to race-blind admissions. Oh, really? Okay, so, but they can though. At the time, cash-poor universities were drastically increasing their admissions of international students, largely from Asian countries, because those applicants paid premium tuition fees. Again, perhaps that is true, but I like I said, I grew up in Los Angeles. I've been to UCLA many times. There's plenty of Asians still there now, and not all of them are international. So just, it still doesn't make any sense. So we have to ask ourselves, truly, what have we won? Well, I answered your question a million times, but let's say, an easier question to answer is what we have lost. America's racial tolerance is enshrined in a set of laws and legal opinions that make the practice of some forms of racism illegal. Affirmative action was a major foundation of those protections. Okay. It was a flawed policy with many valid criticism, blah, blah, blah. Well, here's the thing. The actual statement, I would argue affirmative action, even at its inception, has always been a violation of the very civil rights laws that are on the books. Because if the whole basis of everything is you can't discriminate on the basis of race, then that should also mean you can't give favoritism on the basis of race. Because if you give favoritism, that means you have to discriminate against someone else, because you're not holding people to the same standards. So you can say, oh, but civil rights, right? But civil rights. Okay, and first of all, it's not the 1960s anymore. But secondly, I would still argue that I don't know what affirmative action, quote unquote, looked like in the 60s. But I will say now, right, how that's being applied is just discrimination against whites and Asians, which you would think, in my opinion, actually violates the Civil Rights Act itself. And I think the court seems to agree there, but we continue on. Black families who never had equal access to the American dream were able to enter the middle class in record numbers. I don't know if affirmative action is the reason why, but whatever. And many low-income Asian Americans, especially Southeast Asian, Filipino, and Pacific Islander, became the first people in their families to attend college. Okay, so I think it's actually in many ways insulting to all these people to argue that affirmative action is the only reason they got there, but it's very contradictory when it comes to Asians. But still, regardless, that's what we lost. How is that what we lost? That's not what we lost. That doesn't make any sense. But even so, I would argue, and I said this in the video, I said, listen, I do think that class should play a role in college admissions. I don't think it should be everything. I don't think we should lower standards significantly, because if you can't prove, hey, I'm at least smart enough to still do the coursework, then throw that out. But to some degree, yes, I do agree that, well, if you grew up in tough socioeconomic circumstances, then that should be considered, because, yeah, you didn't have as many resources as the kid who goes to private school and has a 5.0 GPA. I don't have an issue with that. My thing, though, is that what you seem to ignore is that there are millions of poor white kids, first of all. A lot. And, people act like it's not real. There's plenty of them. I care just as much about them. And why should they be discriminated against by affirmative action? And even if you want to bring up, the Southeast Asian, the Filipinos, I would argue, yes, they work their way up socioeconomically. I would argue that's not because of affirmative action. That's in spite of affirmative action. Okay? Because, affirmative action suggests that the poor Asian kid and the poor white kid still get discriminated against. See what I'm saying? So anyways, we can continue reading on here, but I won't read the whole story at this point. But let's skim through it, just find some ridiculous parts. He goes on to say, immigrants are sold a simple, seductive story about America. Here there is wealth, freedom, and equality. Well, so what we got was a win for equality. I don't think hurting white and Asian people is equality, but okay. Anyways, we came here so you could have a better life. So he's just making an emotional appeal that's just nonsensical. And in fact, I could say this entire thing and then say this is why I'm opposed to affirmative action. So that's just a bunch of nonsense. So blah, blah, blah. He goes on to complain about racism, this and that. It's all just ridiculous. And any Asian American let me read from it more. Any Asian American looking to the Republican Party needs to remember how quicklessly and carelessly conservatives resorted to xenophobic language during the pandemic, which unleashed an unprecedented wave of anti-Asian violence. So here's my question then, Mr. Sir. A, where was the vast majority of the anti-Asian violence happening? Was it in Republican areas or was it in different areas? And B, was it white supremacists who were committing the anti-Asian violence en masse? So you're still gaslighting about us. Actually, the Republicans want tough law and order so that way people don't push, Asians into subways and anyone into subways. So just going to point that out. It's just ridiculous. Oh, I'm sure Trump is the reason why people in the inner city are attacking Asian people. Sure it is. Anyways, we've chosen the American dream over American reality because the truth is ugly. It's former President Trump tweeting about the Chinese virus. Okay, and okay, first of all, I used to say it was, but, maybe there's a case. Whatever, not going to talk about that on YouTube. But still, regardless. Okay, and it's you guys who are directly discriminating against Asians. So, but Trump made a mean tweet I don't like. So we should support discrimination against ourselves. You're ridiculous. You're ridiculous, effeminate, emotional. Okay. It's the brutal street assaults on Asian American seniors in. He's owning himself here. It's the brutal assaults on Asian American seniors in Oakland, San Francisco, New York, and Los Angeles. Yeah, I'm sure white Republicans are the reason those are happening, right? Notoriously, right? Notoriously Republican havens of white, where white conservative rednecks are attacking people, because that's definitely what's happening, right? It's the 6th Asian woman shot to death at Atlanta area spas in March 2021. It's a newfound fear that some Asian Americans feel taking the bus, walking down the street, or standing on a subway platform. Yes, because that's definitely because of Republicans, right? It's not because liberal policies and also just immoral people are doing all that stuff. No, it's certainly because Republicans, don't you know? Republicans are actually pulling the strings in New York, and the reason why the NYPD won't do anything and let all the criminals out of jail, and then the criminals attack people, including Asian people, you know whose fault that is, guys? It's Donald Trump. Okay, Donald Trump secretly running New York and LA and Oakland. It's cell phone. What you just said is another reason to support Republicans, Asian people, and just anyone in general who cares about, safety. This is not the America we were told about, so why did we come? Shut up. Okay. It's nonsense. The whole article is gaslighting. It's ridiculous. And the amount of cell phones in there. Okay? Like, he made an argument for us, but thought they backed him up. I don't know. If this is the Asian journalist that Affirmative Action is producing, then I don't know. Maybe there's something to be said there. I'm not sure. But anyways, there's the Asian Affirmative Action article. Wanted to talk about that. I will reiterate, and I will say this again, and as brutal as this sounds, it's true. Really, frankly, hate to use their language, but it's true. Any Asian person that supports affirmative action, like, you're a race traitor. You always call me a race traitor because, I don't know, I support family or conservative values or whatever. But no, you're the one who actively looks at the system and says, the system should be worse to me. The system should discriminate against me on the basis of my race. By definition, what is that? It is true. But all right, before we move on here with the rest of our show, let's get caught up on our super chats. Burgundy Blue for $5 says, France owes Vince and his family $1 billion in reparations for surrendering Vietnam to the communists, leading them to steal your family's land. This is true. I'm going to go to France and protest, okay? Because, when France abandoned Vietnam, what ended up happening is the commies took over. It's true. That's why I'm in America today. It's an elaborate op. I'm here to really demand reparations for leaving Vietnam, which caused my family's land to get taken. It is so true. Thank you for the $5, Burgundy Blue. Deutsch Chad says white adjacent. That's true. Remember on the Vice panel I was on where Zayed, that green hair guy, was like, white adjacency, and I said, what does that mean? What does white adjacency mean? Because he's like, Asians, our problem is we're banking on this idea of white adjacency. But in some ways, you could argue that is white adjacency. Because, much like a lot of white liberals basically betray their own race, basically say, yeah, my race is bad, my race is evil, my race should be discriminated against. Much like a lot of white liberals do that, what do Asian liberals do? So maybe it's true. Maybe white adjacency is real. Maybe they really are being white adjacent. Because that would be a prime example. That would be a prime example. You see the same behavior, this whole just... But basically betray your own race for the sake of being woke or whatever. It's true. Really quickly, I need to blow my nose. Let me grab this little thing here. Like I said, congested today. Give me a second. All right. All right, we're good. Let's continue here with our stories, ladies and gentlemen. Again, if you guys do want to super chat to support the show, it is greatly appreciated. It's your July 4th gift. It's so true. Wait, hold on. We get one right here. No, I don't think we did. Okay. All right, let me check Streamlabs, make sure we're good. I believe we are. Okay. All right, well, let's move on here to our next story, ladies and gentlemen. So, this is a good one. I got a plan. This is a good one. Here you go. So, it'll work. All right, here we go. So, sorry it's cut off, by the way. I don't know why it's doing that. But here's our story. So, you're going to think this is satire. You are probably legitimately going to think this is a joke, but I promise you it is not. So, the Biden White House has said that they are considering using chemicals to block out the sun. They're considering spraying aerosols in the air to block out the sun in order to prevent climate change, quote unquote. Again, you probably think I'm joking, right? No, okay. Here's this article from the Daily Mail. So, the White House has opened the door to an audacious... Hold on, why is this doing this? I'm sorry, guys. The browser thing is being weird. Okay. The White House has opened the door to an audacious plan to block sunlight from hitting the Earth in a bid to halt global warming. Because what could possibly go wrong with that? I can't think of a single thing that would go wrong, A, from spraying chemicals in the air, and B, using them to block out the sun, right? I'm sure we know exactly what we are doing. The scientists are going to get it right at the exact temperature. We certainly won't, get... I'm sure there could be no negative ramifications of this, but here you go. Despite some scientists warning that the effort could have untold side effects from altering the chemical makeup of the atmosphere, gee, scientists, you don't say... You don't say, really. Spraying chemicals in the air can damage the atmosphere, and also, I would argue, blocking out the sun itself. That certainly nothing could go wrong there. And also in the process, again, yeah, true, spraying literal chemtrails in the air. But anyways, President Joe Biden's administration has admitted that they are open to the idea, which has never been attempted before. In a report released Friday by the White House, officials suggested that limiting sunlight to rapidly cool the planet, which is a process known as solar radiation modification. Again, yeah, because I'm sure absolutely nothing can go wrong here. The administration added a note of skepticism by noting that Congress ordered it, insisting that it has not made any decision on a geoengineering policy. You shouldn't even be considering it, Biden. Like the fact that they call us science deniers and say we're these radical conspiracy theorists, genuinely, anyone with common sense who listens to that idea and thinks it's a good idea, what the heck is wrong with you? Like, of course why are you even considering it? And frankly, the fact that they're weighing it, considering it now, means they may easily pursue it in the future. But yeah, apparently they're considering this, because I'm sure absolutely nothing can go wrong. But the report noted that several ways authorities could look into achieving solar radiation modification, all of which could come with potentially devastating consequences if they backfire. Again, gee, you don't say. Okay, so the first plan, one method would be to significantly increase the amount of aerosols in the stratosphere, literal chemtrails. Remember that conspiracy theory from 2010 about the chemtrails? Well, they're now apparently considering it, literally spraying chemicals in the air. No idea how that will be for human health or anything, but okay. Another idea floated included increasing cloud coverage over the oceans or reducing the amount of cirrus cloud formations, which would reflect solar radiation back to the Earth. By the way, I would have to imagine, let's just be realistic about how this would go. They would probably attempt this and then realize they need the sunlight and all the crops die, and guess what? America's in a famine. Can we be realistic? That's probably my official prediction here. Besides the health effects that will happen by spraying chemicals in the air. No, it's true. All right. So, the report noted that undertaking the mammoth task could have severe ramifications on weather patterns and food supplies. Again, you don't say. It also suggests, and by the way, we don't really know what's going to happen. You can run all the simulations you want. They're only based on the things we know. We've never tried this before, okay? So there's a lot that could go wrong. Oh, but we're solving climate change. Okay, sure. It also suggested committing to the idea that backtracking could lead to abrupt warming as the sun's rays suddenly hit the Earth once more, while insisting that it was not definitively moving ahead with the plan. The Biden admin insisted in its report that the idea appeared promising. The idea appears lunacy, okay? Yeah, let's spray chemicals in the air and alter the weather. Sure. It also said that a program of research into the practice would enable better informed decisions about the potential risks and benefits of blocking the sun. So it sounds like they are serious about this. And you might not see it in Biden's administration, but they're planning the idea now, and we'll see where it goes in the future. So anyways. SRM offers the possibility of cooling the planet significantly on a timescale of a few years, the report confirmed. I think we get the idea. Okay. So let me point this out. Again, I think we all common sense intuitively understand what can and likely will go wrong as a result of this. What I will say is that, at this rate, and I'm serious about this, the climate cult is going to destroy the world long before so-called climate change ever does, okay? Because it's not just, this is probably the most insane thing I've ever heard them propose. But this whole idea, you're going to get rid of gasoline, you're going to get rid of oil, but also not embrace nuclear energy either. So basically their plan is, force the whole country and all of the West to rely on solar energy and wind power, which sucks, which is incredibly inefficient and unreliable and does not yield a lot of bang for its buck, right? Let's basically, not have electricity. Let's basically not have power. Let's basically starve and freeze in the winter as we have shortages and we can't even light gas stoves or whatever it is, right? So already, let's not raise livestock, let's have lab grown meat and all this. It's all a bunch of nonsense. It's ridiculous. But now you have them basically pursuing a policy that, I don't know, my common sense intuition suggests probably would end up destroying the world in one way or another. Let's be real. Okay. Definitely has the potential to do that. And this is what, supposedly because of this misinformation lie that climate change is this existential crisis to humanity, and if humans don't sit down and fix it, it's not just going to be a matter of allegedly weather patterns get worse or we innovate or we adapt to it. No, it's going to be the actual end of the world, and because of that, we have to take on crazy ideas like spraying chemicals in the air to try to mess with the weather, again, because nothing could possibly go wrong if we were to pursue that. It's insane. It's lunacy. Someone doesn't sit down now and declare the climate change cult what it is, exactly that, a cult, a doomsday cult that will destroy the world. I guarantee you this, and this is my promise. The climate change people are going to destroy civilization way before climate change itself, quote unquote, if it were ever going to, does. Okay? This is ridiculous. This is insane. And the fact that any person is taking this seriously is, I don't even know what to say. Okay? Even the scientists in that article are saying, yeah, I don't think this is a good idea. I think things can go wrong. Again, you don't say that. It's insane. It's insane. It's absolutely ridiculous. Why is this cult so big? Well, I don't know. Misinformation spreads fast. What can I say? Sandra Meyer says, might I suggest blowing your nose during showing a video clip or graphic next time? I mean, I could, but I didn't have one. Thank you for the $5. I never had one. Okay, I don't know. What should I show? What do I even have on the screen? The outro? The intro? It is what it is. It is what it is. Okay, I'm congested. I do sound like a nerd. Actually, did you know that climate change is real and it's going to destroy the planet? Nerd, dork. That's what I sound like right now. But yeah, because the cult has stayed indoors. Yeah, exactly, 100%. All right. Well, give me a second. Let me try to clear my nose one more time. I'll mute this time if you guys don't like the noise. Okay, I'll mute one this time. Okay. All right, we're back. All right. So it is 8:55. We will do super chats here in a second. But as we wrap up tonight, like I said, no show tomorrow. It's the 4th of July. Have fun with your families and all that. I did want to share, every 4th of July, I like to share, this is probably my favorite story from the American Revolution. It's probably a lesser known story. And it's the story of divine providence, okay? The miracle fog that saved America. And every time I'm demoralized or depressed about this country, which, as you can imagine, probably happens pretty often these days, I am always reminded, okay, it's always motivational to me to know that, at least in its early inception, in its foundation, right, God truly did bless this country, and I want to read from it. So here's the telling of the story from the Daily Citizen. It has to do with basically what happened here. I will contextualize this. Actually, I'll just read it. Okay, so this is the story of the fog that saved America. This is a real story from the Revolutionary War having to do with the Battle of New York. So, but for some, summer rain and dense fog, and independent America may never have been. So here's the story. It was late in the day on Thursday, August 29th, 1776. 246 years ago, General George Washington and his fledgling Continental Army were trapped in Brooklyn Heights, New York, along the East River across the island of Manhattan. So if you know Revolutionary War history, you may know that, you know, we won initially when it came to Boston and New England, but the British, right, they sent their reinforcements in to New York. And the Battle of New York, in 1776, I should say. Right, actually, this was right after the Declaration of Independence. Sorry, got it backwards there. So right after the Declaration, America was about to die because you had the Continental Army waiting for the British in New York. As General Washington predicted it was going to be, it was a massacre, right? We got absolutely destroyed in New York. And so here we were, where the Continental Army was fleeing, they were retreating, and they were trapped. They were trapped, and we'll get into the story here. So, Great Britain's Redcoats, a well-trained army twice in size and far better fortified than the colonists' ragtag militia, had been pummeling Americans for days during what would become known as the Battle of Long Island. General William Howe's British forces were positioned on Staten Island and 400 ships across New York Harbor, readying and raring to ignite the final and fatal blow. So he's got the whole Continental Army pinned. It's about to be the end of the United States, just months after, actually 1 month after July 4th, 1776. And here we go. During this most recent attack, nearly 20% of Washington's troops had either been killed, injured, or captured. Only 9,000 American soldiers remained. Barring a miracle, the Revolutionary War was all but over. Okay. So, long story short, Washington needs an escape here. He's pinned. He needs a way out. If he does not manage to escape somehow, like without the British Army seeing or chasing or being able to get him, then the war is over. The Continental Army is going to be destroyed. And continuing reading here, a miracle is exactly what happened next. Just as the American troops fell back in Brooklyn, likely assuming their sorry fate sealed, the clouds rolled in, the skies darkened, rain began to fall, the wind shifted, a dense fog rolled in as the day became night. Okay? So basically, long story short, they need to cross this river. Okay, cross this river, they can escape. But they need to cross, the article doesn't contextualize it perfectly, but they need to cross this river without the British knowing and without the British being able to pursue them. So they need to quietly cross this river, basically, I believe, like during the night, and they need the British to not be able to track them and pursue them. If this exact thing does not happen, which is against all odds, again, the war is over. Okay. Recognizing, basically this very thick, as the accounts at the time show, this very thick, almost, divine fog rolls in. And recognizing an escape across to Manhattan, Washington ordered his troops to seize the moment. This is in the middle of the night, I believe. Soldiers were ordered into boats. The oars were wrapped in towels to help muffle the sound of wood smacking on the water. According to the accounts of that night, the fog was so thick that, and by the way, this is in the middle of August, so this is not the most common thing, right? The fog was so thick that the men could not see more than 6 feet in front of them. By the time the morning came and the fog had lifted, all 9,000 troops were safely across the East River into Manhattan and points beyond. So basically what happened is, right as they need to cross this river, the thickest fog you have ever seen rolls in, and accounts described at the time that it very perfectly masked the escape of the Continental Army. Like perfectly, right? In the days following the daring escape, George Washington and his troops talked up the providential and, quote, miraculous fog. Previously bedraggled and demoralized, they took the night's turn as a sign that God's favor was upon them, and it gave them the energy and hope to keep going. And then this is what the article says here, but I think it makes a good point. Secularists and even cynical Christians may scoff at the suggestion that the Lord sent the fog to aid the Americans in 1776. But as Christians, we know the Lord can do anything and has repeatedly demonstrated his willingness to step in from time to time in supernatural ways and shape, direct or determine earthly outcomes. In the Bible, we read about God sending his angels to do his bidding, Chronicles 32:21, in war, or literally splitting the Red Sea in Exodus, as everyone knows, and then closing the raging, drowning waters onto the Pharaoh's army. So we know those stories, obviously. We know Jesus can easily control the wind and the waves. But that was then, and this is now, right? Does the Lord still intervene in mundane affairs of men and women? Of course he does. Instead of seeing circumstances as matters of coincidence, we should be willing to see them as signs of God's sovereignty. Rather than calling it luck, why not interpret it as the Lord's perfect plan? Well, it's true. I mean, I know some atheists will say, it was just by total chance that as the Continental Army needed to escape, a fog rolled in very particularly on them that perfectly masked them from the side of the British, and perfectly, rolled in and protected their escape. And then the moment that, the moment that they were done with it, the fog cleared up and there was just no one there, right? Yeah. The thickest fog many of the soldiers had ever seen, 6 feet in front of you, according to the accounts. I don't know. It's just a story I like. People can be cynical about it and say, no, Vince, you're coping. But, truly, I do hear that story. I read, you can research more about this. You read the accounts of the men. George Washington said it was divine providence that by which this happened. Absolutely. Because he and really nobody in the situation had no explanation for why and how that happened. No one was exactly expecting it. And for the fog to so perfectly, as soldiers' accounts described, very perfectly mask the escape of the revolutionaries in the exact way they needed. I don't know. I at least do like to think that God blessed this country. He blessed the inception of this country, and still has a plan for it at the end of the day, as depraved and demonic and wicked and frankly evil that at least its regime has become. I don't know. It's true. Make what you will of that story, but every July 4th I like to share it because it certainly does motivate me and drive me. So it's true. With that said, folks, everyone have a happy July 4th tomorrow, and we will do super chats here until about 9:20, 9:25. So we are now open. So Q&A time. Questions, comments you want read and answered. Your super chats obviously go to support the show, and we will be reading them all here now for about 10 or so, 10, 20, 15 minutes, however long it takes. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Super chat time. Shane Kina for $5 says, gotta get one of those steamers and use it while streaming. Maybe the room is dry. I don't know what you're talking about. I sent a super chat previously, so please look into it. Let me see. Sometimes these super chats are not showing up on YouTube these days, which is strange. Oh, here it is. Okay, I see it. Shane Kina for $5, says, every century has its city. London dominated the 18th century, Paris the 19th, New York the 20th. Seems like either the Middle East or Asia has the 21st. It is true. Thank you for the $5. Yeah, I mean, it's an open question. What is the city of the century? A lot of people might look to Dubai, and I'd say it's probably one of the nicest cities of this century, but is it the most influential? I don't know. To tell you the truth, it's probably Beijing. Let's be realistic. I don't want that to be true. Beijing or Shanghai. I don't want that to be true, but realistically, in terms of influence, in terms of geopolitics, that seems to be, at least right now, what the city of the century is going to be, and hopefully that changes. But it is true. It's a good point. Thank you for the $5, Shane Kina. or the $10 really, I should say. I appreciate it very much. Let's continue here with our super chats. Sai for $20. Let's go. Thank you, Sai, for the 20. Big dono there from Sai. Says, you can blow your nose when you like. Happy 4th from New York, Vince. Thank you for the $20. Sorry you are in New York, but yeah, you have a happy 4th. You too. God bless you. Appreciate it. Thank you for the $20. Big donation there from Sai. And everyone, hope you guys have a happy 4th of July tomorrow. And comment right now in the live chat what you got planned. Don't dox yourself, obviously, but, you know, we are a community. Feel free to share it. Cool stuff you're doing. I still don't know what I'm going to do. I still don't have concrete plans. We'll figure something out. But dollar for $2 says he wanted to... Sorry. He wanted his MTV, but he just can't have it. It's so true, dollar for dollar. Thank you for the $2. Yeah. General William Howe saw the Continentals leaving and was like, I want my MTV. And what happened? What did he not get? He did not get his MTV. It's true. Imagine wanting your MTV and all of a sudden it's gone. Fog rolls in and next thing you know, it's gone. It's true. This is what happened at the Battle of Long Island in August of 1776. It's so real. It's so real. Small graded guy for $2 says, thoughts on John Doyle now dating Jenna Ortega? Thank you for the 2. I have no idea what you're talking about. I have no idea. Who am I? Let's... Yeah, she is some actress. Okay. I've heard the name, but I was like, who exactly is that? I don't know. I have no comment. I have no comment on these rumors. I have no idea. Thank you for the $2 small grading guy. Sandra Meyer for $5 says, you should do a segment reading cool American history stories, a regular segment on the show. Sorry, I can't read because I'm like so congested I can't read because that's how it works. It's true. But thank you for the $5. I mean, we could. That's definitely my favorite American war story of all time, probably. But there are plenty that could be told, you know? What do you think, chat? Should we make that a segment? Just read out like random stories from American history most people have never heard of. The Divine Fog one's always the one I use on July 4th, but there are plenty others, so I don't know. We definitely could. We definitely could. Soup Person says, happy 4th, Vince. You have a happy 4th as well. Paris, that's how, I guess that's how some migrants show gratitude. Yeah, exactly. They aren't rumors. He confirmed them. Oh, well. I barely know who Jenna Ortega is, but I wish them the best. I wish them the best. John A says, Vince can't read. No, I can't read. I can't read. I cannot name 10 books. You guys see that kid Matan? Okay, by the way, Matan is a G. Shout out Matan. I want you to come on the show. Okay, that kid's awesome. But you guys seen that? You say you can read. He's dating like he's debating these like porn stars on one of those red pill segments or whatever, and he's just like destroying them, and they're like, oh well, I'm smart. He's like, no, you are not. Oh, you know how to read? Name 10 books, and they can't name 10 books, and it's a legendary segment. But that's me right now. I cannot name 10 books. Okay, so shout out Matan. We're gonna bring, you know, one day we're gonna bring Matan on the show for an interview. Okay, Matan's awesome. He also, I don't know if you guys have seen, he went to, Hassan Piker was like protesting against rent control or something like that. He's just doing some liberal protest. You guys seen this video? And Matan, that kid goes up to him and says, we love the landlords, we love landlords, he's like protesting in favor of the landlords. It's so funny. And apparently he's like 15. Okay, the kid claims to be 15. I don't know how old he really is. Who knows? But, you know, he's there. He freaking trolls the heck out of Hassan Piker. And Hassan just leaves. Like, they drive Hassan Piker out of his own protest. It's hilarious. Okay, so shout out Matan. All right? Matan's a G. Never changed Matan. Very cool. Some people don't like that kid. I think he's hilarious. And I think he's based, too. Clearly is. Because all the trolling aside, the things he says are genuinely true. It's true. They cannot name 10 books. Name 10 books. Name 10 books. So, Vince, have you seen the Veritas BlackRock stuff? It's not Veritas, it's the O'Keefe media, but yes, I have seen that. It's crazy. History is always good to learn. Yeah. I mean, we could make it a segment, I think. I don't know. It's true. So many illegal fireworks in my town. I love it. Yeah, it's true. You know, growing up, I've had a total 180 on this. because growing up in LA, you're not allowed to have the fireworks. They're technically illegal. Growing up, I always was annoyed by them. You know what I mean? It's, oh my gosh, here we go. Blah, blah, blah. But then I remember in the summer of 2020, so this was when I was still in high school. In the summer of 2020, if you remember, as I'm sure you can imagine, LA basically shut down all the July 4th gatherings. They shut down all the fireworks shows. Everything was canceled, all that. And they said, don't do anything. Don't gather, blah, 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 COVID. And you guys remember that video where everyone was setting off their own fireworks? It was cool. It was like a mini Independence Day in LA. And you see the shots from the sky. Everyone all over the place was shooting off fireworks. And it was like a symbol of rebellion. It was very cool. So I remember that incident myself changed my position on the whole. We won't call them illegal. We will call them unsanctioned, okay? Unsanctioned fireworks. I used to be annoyed by them growing up. And then I remember that whole incident. And then now, you know, we love to hear it. It's true. It is right wing. It's a symbol of American rebellion, which is something we obviously need. So, again, they're not illegal. They're just unsanctioned, okay? Unsanctioned. There's a difference. Mostly peaceful fireworks shows. Okay, mostly peaceful fireworks shows. Dollar for dollar for $2 says, in that video, Mark Knopfler had the most based quote. Thank you for the $2, dollar for dollar. I appreciate it. So, all right, we got about 10 minutes left here on these shows. So any last super chats you want to send in, be sure to send them in now. Last call, closing out the bar, and we will go hopefully into a safe but fun 4th of July weekend. Undocumented fireworks. Exactly, they're undocumented. Okay? No firework is illegal. No firework is illegal. Okay? Vince Dow, thoughts on Trump's 250th anniversary plans if he is president? I vaguely remember. What exactly did he say he was planning to do? Wasn't he planning to do like some huge celebration for America? I don't know. Whatever it is, it's going to be cool. Whatever it is, it's going to be cool. You know, I endorse. I endorse for sure. Okay? 100%. Only 11 days until the anniversary of the saddest day in American history. What is that? Oh, yeah, 7/14. Yeah, true. That is indeed the worst incident in America. I was like, what is that? True. I forgot myself what it is. It's very true. A year-long celebration. Yeah, no, we should do a year-long celebration. Okay. The whole country shuts down and we just party for a year. Everyone's gonna be like, no, you can't do that. Too bad. Okay. We're lighting them up for a whole year. Let's see. He wanted to make some massive celebration in Iowa. Understood. Understandable. It's real. It's true. How many Clifford books were there? Well, no, the girl could not name 10 books. That was what's funny about it. And I feel like that's so easy to do because Brian, yeah, I mean, I don't think she knows the books of the Bible, but you could even say the Bible, right? But I think the book she named was Game of Thrones. And he's like, Game of Thrones is not book, that name of series. What is the book called? And she's like, and they're like, no. They're like, shut up, kid. I don't know why people don't like that guy. I think that guy is such a G. Okay, he's hilarious. All right, and all the people he makes fun of and makes look stupid are just the worst people. But I suppose that's who gets mad, right? The 304s are mad because he calls them out for being stupid, right? Hassan is mad. Hassan Piker is mad because he makes a mockery of his stupid liberal protests. It's true. We love Matan, okay? If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's Matan Even. Matan Even. That's how you would spell it. M-A-T-A-N space E-V-E-N. I'm giving him a shout out because genuinely, I was watching him today, okay? He's like my new favorite YouTuber, okay? The kid's freaking epic, and I want to get him on the show. He's based. He's our guy. He's literally our guy. It's so real. She couldn't even name one. Yeah, no, she could not name a single book. Name 10 books. It's so funny. Here, I'll put his name in chat. I'm giving him a free shout out, Matan. Okay, come on the show sometime. That's his name. Okay. The kid is so good. He's so good, dude. He's the best. Oh, fireworks. You guys hear that? So, yeah. All right, we got about 5 minutes left here in the show. So, last call for any super chats, questions, comments, things you want to send in. Real, be sure to send them in now. Be patriotic daily, not just one day a year. I agree. Very true. But let's see here now. Makes the Democrats nervous when people have stuff that goes bang. Real. So true. Let's see what else. How many Clifford books were there? Yeah, she could not name 10 books. Could not name 10 books. In 2020, everyone lit off the illegal fireworks in California. It was crazy. Yeah, do you guys remember that video? It's funny that I looked at that video. I was like, Trump's gonna win. And then we know the shenanigans that ensued. But I remember looking at that video, be like, we got this election. We got this. Look, California's doing this. Real. It was one of the last times. I was kiddishly proud of of what America was. And then now it's a different kind of patriotism, right? I say this very often too. I nowadays am more so patriotic in the sense that I just love my country unconditionally, like I would a child or a family member or whatever. But I'll be real with you. I have a harder time these days subscribing to the very Toby Keith, just like raw old school conservative idea of patriotism, because a part of me looks at our country and says, what do we stand for these days? Degeneracy, like what do we stand for? So it's real. But I think that there's something about celebrating 4th of July and celebrating the spirit of rebellion that's even more needed in a time like this. It's very true. But I more so these days am more patriotic of my country in the sense that, well, it's like loving a child, right? So if your child is A+ student, like America used to be, the A+ student making 6 figures, happy wife, kids, you're proud in that like braggadocious sense of, we got the best country, right? This and that. Now it's more so, well, America is the kid who, is in and out of jail and is a train wreck and on drugs. And it's like, yeah, you still love your kid, obviously, but it's a different kind of love. It's more so of a, because I love you, please get your act together. I'm actually ashamed of you in a sense, right? It's that kind of love more so than it's the raw, very proud of our country type of love, if that makes sense. That's how I feel these days. But, obviously I think suspending it on the 4th of July for one day, there's no problem with that. But it is real. It is real and true. Let's see what else. Ocean City, Washington has the best celebration. 17 miles of beach and good fireworks. It's epic. Well, maybe if I'm ever in Ocean City, Washington, we'll have to go check it out. DC's not bad, by the way. I've seen that July 4th. I don't know. Where's the good show even in Florida? Is that really a thing? I have no idea. So the fact that he gaslighted her was a victory in itself. Matan only takes... I've never seen Matan take an L, okay? Because also, he makes all of the annoying YouTubers that nobody likes look so stupid. It's hilarious, dude. The kid, I've never seen the kid have taken L. I've never seen him, okay? He's epic. We're going to get him on the show, okay? I'm seriously going to try to email him and get him on the show, all right? And imagine that. Imagine the interview with Matan. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be so good. Okay, it's gonna be so good. So let's see. July 4th is the kid's birthday. Yeah, exactly. So you still send the kid a birthday gift, right? You still like, I'm happy it's your birthday. It's real. It's real. I live in SoCal. Didn't have to watch a video. Oh, I did at the time too, but the video, that ABC7 video of it going over LA from the helicopter. I love that video. It's a great video. So true. Let's see here. Gaslighting isn't even a word. Yes, it is. Gaslighting. Is it not actually in a dictionary? Gaslighting definition. If it's in the dictionary, I'm going to prove you wrong. It's in the Oxford Dictionary. What do you mean, small grading guy? It is a word. And a gaslight is a real thing. Small grading guy it's not a word. It is a word. What are you talking about? It's not a word. It is indeed a word. It is a real thing. It is a verb. Okay? We need Matan to come in here and tell you to name 10 books. Small grading guy, name 10 books. Name 10 books. No, it's not. It's literally in the Oxford Dictionary. What do you mean it's not a word? Vince is actually getting gaslit. Oh, okay. So I can't name 10 books. All right. I can't name 10 books. All right. Well, anyways, guys, it is 9:20. I don't think we got any more super chats, so I will wrap up the show here for tonight. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. Be sure to have a happy 4th of July tomorrow. We will see you here back live on the show on Wednesday. We should have a 4th of July video out for you, but live back here on Wednesday. Which, by the way, we'll probably, when we come back on Wednesday, I think we're going to start the show later because I will be going on a different show, I believe around 7:30. So we may start the show an hour late, maybe 9 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday, just letting you know on that front. I will let you know for sure. It's not confirmed, but I'll let you know, and I'll let you know the show and all that stuff when it comes to it. But all right, guys, with that said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for everyone who tuned in. Be sure to leave a like before you go. Wait, one more super chat. $1 for $2 said, did you know the word gullible isn't in the dictionary? $1 for $, did you know if your hand is bigger than your face, you're retarded? Did you know that? You should try it. $1 for $. Do you guys remember that? You should. Why don't you try it? $1 for $. Come here, show me, and we'll test it. Okay, we'll test it. You know, if your hand's bigger than your face. Thank you for the $2. $1 for $. You know, it says it says gullible on the ceiling. You see it? So true. All right, with that said, good night, everyone. Alpha moves only. God bless. Have a very good night and peace.